Hello, John from Peter Tyson. Many think subwoofers are just for home theatre, but they're fantastic for music too. While stereo speakers can produce really good bass, a dedicated subwoofer excels at those very lowest frequencies, adding weight, impact and realism that even some full range speakers can miss. It's about filling in foundational notes and adding dimension, not just more boom. The key is seamless integration. So what will you need? An appropriate subwoofer for your system and size of room. Just like loudspeakers, a huge sub in a small room can dominate, and a small sub will struggle to energize a very large room and not always contribute sufficiently to very large speakers. It's all about balance. You'll need a good quality shielded RCA subwoofer cable. Poor quality ones, particularly long lengths, can introduce noise and hum to your subwoofer. And of course some test music, a CD or streaming playlist with varied bass heavy tracks. So let's get into subwoofer placement. It's the most crucial step. We are not very good at localizing low frequency sound with our inferior human ears. This does not mean though you can just plonk a sub anywhere and it won't make any difference. The way the subwoofer interacts with your room significantly influences bass response, so finding the best spot is absolutely crucial. The best way I like to do it is called the subwoofer crawl. This method might sound silly, but it's incredibly effective. Place the subwoofer at your main listening position. Obviously, be very careful if your subwoofer is large and heavy. Get some help or place it as close as you can without endangering yourself or your hi-fi equipment. Turn up the subwoofer's level and cross over to about halfway. It's okay if this is much louder than usual. We'll tweak this later. Play a continuous bass-heavy track. Crawl around your room, on your hands and knees if you like, listening carefully at potential subwoofer spots. Some areas the bass will sound boomy, others thin, some almost silent. If you can't get down to floor level, just walking the perimeter of your room will be a good indicator. Mark the spot where the bass sounds the most even, tight and impactful. This is your ideal placement. Sound physics work in reverse, so when you and the subwoofer swap position again, it should sound very similar from your listening position. If you can't do the crawl, as a minimum, just try the subwoofer in all aesthetically viable spots in your room with your test tracks and pick the one with the cleanest, most defined bass at the listening position. It's not as thorough, but it may still help you improve your sound. There are some placement principles to consider. Corners often produce the loudest bass but can be boomy. Along a wall between or slightly off centre from your main speakers usually offers a more balanced sound. You can try side and rear walls too, if the front isn't ideal. Generally avoid symmetrical placement. This can worsen room modes. This is where sound waves bounce off the walls and interact with each other. Experiment with slight offsets if you can. And sometimes if you're struggling for small spaces or extreme room issues, placing a sub closer to your listening in a near field position can help. It's less common for general stereo listening, but worth trying if you're really struggling to find your sweet spot. Once you've found your sweet spot, let's get everything connected and dialed in. First up, the sub out or LFE out from your amplifier. You need to connect the RCA cable from your amp sub out to the subwoofer's in. If your amp just has a pre-out, please make sure that you can set it to variable volume in its settings, not fixed. This is so the sub will match your main speakers when you change your amp's volume control and not be fixed at full power, potentially causing damage. If your amplifier doesn't have a subwoofer output, connect speaker wires from your amp to the subwoofer's high level input if it has one. Manufacturers like REL often recommend that you use both high and the low level inputs. If you have the capacity to do so, give it a try and see what you think. Now the all important settings. The volume or gain control needs to start off really low, right down below 1/4. Crossover frequency, or low pass filter, sets the maximum frequency the subwoofer will play. Find the main speaker's lowest reproducible frequency, for example 50 or 60 Hz, set the subwoofer's crossover slightly above that. 80 Hz is often a good starting point for many systems that use bookshelf speakers. Larger floor standards will go much lower, down to 60 or even 40 Hz or below. The goal is seamless integration, not too much overlap. If you're using a receiver with an LFE output that has onboard crossover controls, you can let that do the filtering instead. In that case, just set the subwoofer's control to maximum. Start with the phase switch at 0 degrees and the auto on off, if your sub has one, set to auto for convenience. The sub will kick in when a signal is detected and power off after a period of inactivity. Right, the fine tuning. This is the fun part. Let's match the volume first. Play your test music and slowly increase the sub's volume or gain. You want the bass to sound like it's coming from your main speakers. You should feel the bass, but not be able to locate where it's coming from. Adjust until it seamlessly extends your speaker's low end. Then let's refine the crossover. Adjust in small amounts while listening. If the bass sounds disconnected or thick and heavy, it might be set too high. If there's a hole in the middle of the sound and bass is missing, it might be set too low. Remember, less is often more. Aim for enhancement, not all-out
bass domination.
Now let's go back to phase. Flip the phase switch between 0 degrees and 180 degrees. This decides whether the sub's driver pushes and pulls with or against your main speakers. One setting will result in more articulate, impactful and louder bass. This is where the sound waves from the speakers and the subwoofer align optimally. If your sub has a continuous phase knob, slowly adjust it for the most focused integrated bass. A friend can help, or patience and time will work if you don't have a friend handy. And listen to different music, test different genres, acoustic, electronic, rock, classical, to ensure you're getting consistent and natural bass across all of your favourite tracks. And before we end, a few extra tips. If your bass still sounds uneven, try subtly repositioning your subwoofer by an inch or two. It can make a difference. Acoustic treatments like bass traps can also help. Don't get frustrated, most rooms aren't perfect, so some compromise is likely. Properly dialing in your main speakers will also significantly improve overall sound. If only there were a handy guide on YouTube to show you how to do it. Always use the subwoofer's feet or spikes, if included, to reduce vibrations and tighten bass. You might laugh, but I've seen this far too often. Please never place your subwoofer inside a media unit or cupboard unless it's specifically designed for that. Even then, it's not always the best idea. If your amplifier or AVR has an auto calibration system, it's generally good to use it. While helpful for a starting point, always fine-tune by ear for optimal musicality. They're not always the best at integrating the subwoofer, especially for 2-channel music. Setting up a subwoofer can seem challenging, but with a bit of patience and trust in your own ears, you can greatly improve your stereo system's sound. A properly integrated subwoofer might initially sound like it's producing less bass if you're used to an overpowering one. However, give it time and you'll notice more detail from your main speakers, as the subwoofer has taken some of the workload and a cleaner, deeper, faster bass. The goal is for the subwoofer to enhance your main speakers, not to constantly draw attention to itself with excessive boom. If you're unsure, try turning it off mid-song to appreciate its contribution. Need some help picking the right subwoofer, or want to arrange a demonstration and try some out? Give us a call. I hope this helped, and happy listening. You'll see me in the next video. Take care.